In the previous video, we showed how to create the hinge assembly, as you see here in SolidWorks. We used the existing hinge pieces, put them in the assembly, and then we created an in-context part to make the pin. We based it off of this drawing. Now, if we scroll down in the same document, we see that the second set of drawings has to do with this door. And so what we'll do in this video is showing how to use the previous assembly that we just created and insert it into a new assembly as a subassembly. And we'll do that in the context of this door and see how that works. And so we'll go back to SolidWorks and we're going to create a new assembly. So we do that just like we would in the part file, but select assembly. We don't want to insert the hinge assembly yet. We're going to browse that same folder that we had where we got the hinge parts. That's this folder right here. And instead of the hinge parts, we're going to select this door. This is the part that we'll use as the base of this assembly. So just like in our previous videos, we're not going to click to place it out here. We're going to select the check mark, and that will fix the origin of the door to the origin of the assembly. And you'll see the F there indicating that this door is fixed. Now what we want to do is we want to insert the hinge as a subassembly. And it's as easy as inserting the hinge under the insert components and just selecting the whole assembly rather than individual parts. Now it looks really small because the hinge is really small compared to the door. And what we'll do is we'll zoom in here, and now we just start making those like we would any assembly. So I'll select this surface here and this one here, make it coincident. Then we'll do, let's say, this tiny little side surface. And there, here's a case where we want to flip the mate alignment. And then we'll do this top surface with this top surface of the hinge. There we go. Okay. And it's as simple as that. You'll notice in your model tree, you've got the door part and you've got the hinge assembly. Now within that hinge assembly, you've got the parts that you used to create that assembly previously. But this is what we would call a sub-assembly in the context of the one we're currently editing. I just want to make sure I got that hinge on correctly based on this drawing. Looks like I did. So we're good to go. Okay. Now what I need to do is I'm going to use my linear pattern to create copies of this hinge assembly. To create copies of this hinge subassembly on the door. So we do linear component pattern, and then our direction, we need to select something linear essentially that moves in the direction we want to go. So I'm going to select this line. You can see this arrow at the bottom. It's going to show what direction this is going to, it will put in our new instances of our component. I want it to go the other way. And so I can select this arrow here, which will reverse the direction. I can also select it down at the bottom. We're going to have 3 total instances. That's something people generally mess up. And when it comes to number of instances, it's how many total do you want, including the one you already have. We want 3, one on the top, one on the bottom, and one in the middle. Now, so far as spacing goes, I know that they need to be 38 inches apart. That's just because I made this assembly in the past. You might need to do some math to figure it out based on, do some measurements and things. But it is 38 inches. And then components to pattern, I'm going to select the hinge assembly. And there you go. We can zoom in here, see that that one goes all the way to the end. That one's in the middle. They're equally spaced. And we can hit the check mark. There we go. Now what we want to do is we're going to insert some screws into our assembly. Actually, before we insert the screws that hold the hinges on, we need to extrude cut some holes into the door for the screws to go into. And so that it's really pretty simple. It's similar to the way that we edit. Well, it is the same way that we edited the hinge pin in the context of the previous assembly. We're going to do the same thing here with the door. We select the door part, hit edit component. Oh, I need to save the assembly. Thanks for the reminder, SolidWorks. We'll save door assembly. Once that loads, give it a moment. There we go. If I've done it correctly, this should all be blue. And because we had to save in the middle, I'll just do that again for your reference. So again, we select the door part, we hit edit component, and then we can see that now the door is blue. It's got all the features on the door, and we're just going to keep adding features here. I'm going to open up a sketch on this surface of the door, and we're going to sketch some circles. Circle, it doesn't matter how big, we're going to constrain them here for a second. Okay. We're going to make all those circles equal to each other. And then we're going to give them a size of 0.1985. Why that diameter? Well, we're going to be putting screws in here, and they're 1/4 20 screws. I know that that's about the minor diameter of a 1/4 20 screw, and so it doesn't have to be precise, but 0.2 would have worked just fine for what we're doing. Now I'm going to extrude cut. I know the size of the screws that are going to go in there. So if we do an extrude cut that's blind and goes 1.25, those holes will be plenty big enough. Now we want to pattern those holes down the part. And so we will do our linear pattern. We're going to select the direction, similar to the way that we did the linear pattern for the hinge assemblies, but now we're just doing it for features. Again, 3, again, 38 inches. And then now, instead of the assembly, we're just going to select the whole feature, that cut extrude feature. There we go. We see it works there. And the preview gives us that there. Check mark. Now we've got all the holes that we need, so we can return to the assembly. And we do that by selecting Edit Component. And then because we've got the stop sign here, hit the stop sign up here to rebuild. And I'm going to save because I changed parts in the assembly. It's just good to save often. Now I can insert those screws. You might be asking yourself, wait, where are those screws? They're not in the folder that you downloaded off Learning Suite. And that's right. The screws are actually downloaded off of a website called McMaster Park. Because these are screws you could actually buy from McMaster. And so what you need to do, go ahead and highlight that part number, copy that, Control-C. And then we're going to look up McMaster car, search it plenty of times, open it up, type in that part number. Then you can see it pulls up the screw that we want, and we can actually download a SolidWorks part for that screw. So I'm going to download it. So it's there in my downloads file. Got it. Come back to SolidWorks. And now when we go to insert our component, we just need to browse for that screw. We need to browse in the downloads file. Sorry, I have to keep pausing the video. My network's not quite working for me to browse for files. Give me a moment. It should work now. Right, 1 second. There we go. Finally got it to work. So go to my downloads. I can open up this screw in here. Okay. I'm actually just going to do that 2 more times, 3 times total. Here's the second one. Put it up, and then we'll do the third one. Okay. If you know of any good way to insert that 3 times without having to open it up every time, please comment that in the video because I don't know a good way to do it. For this, we're just going to end up mating it the same way that we did mates before. So we'll make that concentric. We're going to lock the rotation. We're going to flip the mate there and call it good. We're going to do that same thing for every screw. And then we're also going to make these coincident so that they're flat. Once we've done that with all of our screws, then we can come back up here to our linear component pattern. And for the third time, we're going to select the direction. We're going to put in our variables. Looks like it's kept the same variables from last time. We can select these screws now. And it should pattern. Let's go in the other direction. So we'll switch there. Now we can see the preview, screws there, and screws there in those holes. So we'll hit the check mark. And that's pretty much it. So in this video, we talked particularly about editing a part in the context of the assembly. We did that with the door to add holes to it. We also used a subassembly for the hinge. And we also used parts that we downloaded off the internet in order to refine our assembly. These are all things that you'll be doing in your later projects in the class. And so hopefully you can find this video to be helpful for you.